Hello beautiful friends, and welcome back to another episode of Society Knits. My name is Sally, and here on my YouTube channel I try and celebrate Australian dyers, Australian fibre and Australian designers. So if that sounds like it could be something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe so you continue on my journey as I use Australian yarn and fibre and designers to create a capsule wardrobe. Before we get into the yarn ban that has not gone very well at all, if you can see this little pile that's overflowing in the corner here, I do want to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land on which I'm filming here in Wagga Wagga. It is the Wiradjuri people. I also wanted to check in with you. I have noticed here on YouTube from various YouTubers that I watch that there's been a big shift in people's kind of priorities and focus, and I've seen a couple of fairly prominent channels who are saying no to collaborations. I've seen some big channels really pulling back on their posting of videos as well, like posting frequencies, and I guess there's just probably been quite a global shift as well with all of the events that are happening, which have really far-flung kind of effects. And recently I've had a couple of yarn orders that were not quite right, and I had amazing customer service, but again, I just wonder how we are all doing and if you're okay. And if you're not, I hope you're able to find comfort in tuning into your knitting and slowing down, and maybe this episode provides you with a little distraction for what's going on, because I think we're all feeling it. So let's get into something a lot more enjoyable, because we need the distraction. And the first thing obviously I want to talk to you about is my finished object. So the way I'm going to do today's episode is I'll go through my finished object, which is my beautiful Billie Pullover by Sari Nordland, and then I'll do some side missions, some side quest things that I've been working on. I'll also give you an update with what capsule wardrobe additions I've started or made progress on, and then finally the acquisitions of April 2026. So let's go into the Billie Pullover. Now, if you remember and have been following along for a while, the Billie Pullover was going to be one of my kind of statement pieces. It is a top-down raglan sweater by Sari Nordland, and I knit the size 3. Now, the divine yarn that I am wearing with this gorgeous, gorgeous speckle is this one. So Daffodil Road Yarn Co. In the colorway Kitty. This is an 8-ply or a DK superwash merino with 200 meters per 100 grams. So very standard, lovely, soft, bouncy DK. It is actually one of the softest yarns I have used in a long time. It was a pleasure to knit with. Now I ordered 6 skeins. So typically for a jumper or sweater, for me, I need about 1200 meters. So I ordered 6 skeins, and for those who are following along on Instagram, you will have seen that I was playing potential yarn chicken with the final cuff, but I actually had a little bit left over and a whole extra 100 gram skein. So that will be a beautiful something, maybe a hat, will not go to waste, but I was quite happy to have leftover rather than the other way. What did I do with this design? So after making my Sabai top, again, check out or even the episode before's video, I really realized that my gauge for knitting flat versus in the round is incredibly different. So when you start this, you actually start at the back and you're knitting a panel flat to create shaping, and then you're joining in the round. So I went down the needle sizes quite substantially. I think the pattern calls for a 4.5. I think I went down to about a 3.25 or a 3.5 when I was doing that. Just help tighten it up a little bit, knowing as well that that's at the top of your jumper. So the whole weight of the jumper and with a bit of gravity is going to pull it down, even if it is a tiny bit tight compared to what your gauge needs to be. And then when I worked in the round, I just steadily every round or two just increased up to the recommended needle size, which was 4.5 needles. That way it didn't go from like tight to massive, and you know, that could have caused flaring and all that sort of thing. So I think that worked quite well. You know, if you're really looking, you might be able to see that these ones around here are just a little bit tighter and not as open, and it might be more obvious on the back, but I'm not looking at the back. So I'm really happy that I made that decision. So you start at the back and then you're creating in the round raglan shaping, fairly standard. I love the braid that actually is incorporated into the raglan shaping. It's just so beautiful. And then you're doing all of this moss stitch where the decreases in the sleeves and things happen. So you don't have to have interruptions to the actual cables. It's all done in the moss stitch, which I think is just really clever. So you knit down. I did a sewn bind off because I think that sits a little bit nicer. And then you pick up for the neck, and you then also do the sleeves so that the neck is not done at the beginning. I decided to just knit the neck onto the collar. I didn't do a sewn finish as she recommends. And I decided, because I really don't like big loose sleeves, not that these are that loose, that I wouldn't do a sewn bind off for the sleeves. I just did a in pattern bind off because I wanted it to be a little bit tighter. Now, I think one of the things I should really tell you about this is, I mean, number one, it's really enjoyable. This is for someone who has openly declared that she hated cables, and like, look what I have created. There are two things to be aware. The original pattern is created for a 10 ply or a worsted weight yarn, and she actually uses Cascade 220. This is a DK yarn. The reason I chose a DK instead of going for a thicker yarn is, number one, the colorway was absolutely perfect, and I thought that's the priority in my brain, and it was only available in DK. And I'm a really loose knitter, so I could use a lighter yarn with the recommended gauge needles and actually have a proper gauge, like knowing that I would have a more drapey, looser sweater as an end result. And that is what I've got. Like, you can see here how drapey that is. It's not going to be the really structured, grippy cascade sweater. This is a sweater with drape. So just keep that in mind if you decide to copy me. The pattern is actually for a much heavier gauge of yarn. The other thing is about managing the speckles. Now, you can see a little bit, if I stand up, a little bit of striping here and there. And particularly you can see the striping here, and then if you take my word for it, there's like a white band, and then there's a little bit more striping. And maybe you can it's much less obvious for the arms because you're going much more often. When I wound up the yarn, I found that the majority of the speckles were on kind of the outside of the skein. And the outside of the skein is, when you're making a cake, the thing that goes into the middle. So I found, as I was working through the skein, because I would start with the the yarn from the outside of the cake, I would find I would have these big periods of much whiter kind of bands. And then as I got towards the middle to outside, or now the inside of the cake, I would be getting much heavier speckling. So what I did is when I finished a cake, knowing that the next one I picked up would probably be a lot of white before it started to get in the speckles, and I've just finished a part that was quite speckly, I actually would go and do some on the arm, or I picked up and knit the collar, or I kind of just tried to use it up a little bit so that I could get a better color match. And that, yeah, it was a little bit tricky, and it is something to be mindful of, because if you imagine when it's being dyed and it's in the pan and you're sprinkling things all over it, it would be very difficult to get such a good distribution on all sides of the yarn. So have a little think about that. It's probably just something that you're going to discover if you, like, as you're knitting the project. I don't think a swatch is going to be big enough for you to kind of get an understanding on the distribution of the speckles. But the yarn was divine. It was, and like even wearing it, I've only got a simple t-shirt underneath and I'm so comfortable. It grew a little bit with blocking, but that, if anything, just kind of gave me a little bit of extra length on the torso in particular. So really, really happy with it. Absolutely love it. I can't wait to wear it, and I know I will get a lot of wear out of this. So Daffodil Road yarn, colorway Kitty, Divine Billie Pullover. Let me know if you decide to make one too. Okay, friends, that is one of my statement pieces from my capsule wardrobe that I cannot believe is finished. Let's move on to side missions, side quests, things that have caught my eye, because who can possibly be monogamous? Now, I have been having lots of fun with my spindle. I tried spindling probably about 7 years ago, and it was I think it was anyway, it was the opposite of this. Whatever, if you call this a bottom down, it was like a top up, and I didn't like it. It was too big and heavy. And I was like, why would I do this if I could just use a spinning wheel? Anyway, obviously gave it another go, bought some gorgeous fibre from Kathy's Fibre, and look how much I've done in my little turtle. I was also incredibly encouraged by Handmade by Catkin, Caitlin's just love of spinning and all kinds of spindles, and I thought I just need to give this a go, and I can see why it's so addictive. So that is just something that I'm pottering along with. I just really love seeing the color changes. I've been able to get some consistency with kind of obviously there's some thick bits, no one's perfect, but my consistency is getting so much better. I can pick it up for 5 minutes and make a little bit more yarn, and it's just been really fun. It's just a nice little side mission. So Kathy's Fibre for the fibre that I got at Fibre Feast, Cat and Sparrow. This was a medium spindle. And she has excellent YouTube videos if you want to give this a go. And they're not particularly expensive either to buy these 3D printed ones. So that is side mission number 1. Number 2 was, I don't really know, I think I was just in the Easter mode, and then I've now not in the Easter mode and abandoned it, and half the stitches have come off. Anyway, I started a sock, which is bizarre, using half-bake hand-dyed Aussie self-striping yarn. This is the colourway Tippy, not Pippy like I might have said previously. It's just a standard fingering weight, although it's probably a little bit of a heavier fingering weight. I am using, we're just going to be very delicate because I've actually, like, a whole needle has come out of this because I got excited, cast it on, and then haven't done anything more, and it's been traveling around in a bag. So I am using Mindful Melbourne Makers Melbourne sock pattern, which is a free fingering weight pattern, and it's a little bit more of a recipe where you kind of choose your own adventure. So it's a top down sock, and on my ball of yarn, yellow was the first color, but I didn't want that to be the cuff. I thought the pinky, like this pink is just so pretty that I wanted it. So I actually pulled off the yellow and then have started with the pink directly. Just doing a little slip stitch with the color change, which is really cute. And this is actually the second time I've knit this. The first time I did a medium sock, which is what I would normally make, and it was turning out really big, and that's why I think this is probably a bit of a heavier fingering, because light fingering medium size is like a 64 stitch sock is usually my happy medium, and this was just, it felt too big. The stitch density didn't seem right, so I've now gone down, so same needle size, which is 2.25, now gone down to the small size, and I'm much happier with it, and I think it'll just stretch out a little bit but also still have great sock density. And I will fix that up later when I'm back in a sock knitting mood and not in a cabling mood. So side mission number 2. Okay, what have we got over here? Now let me update you on my other capsule pieces. This one will be reasonably brief. This is the Tiny Tassels shawl. So this is a garter stitch triangular shawl that is a free pattern from, I think it's Karin Fernandes. The details will be, you can find it on my Ravelry, which is sjknots, or have a look at the description below. The yarn I am using is Ashen Eve Designs Wildflower, and it is a kind of sport weight sock yarn with just really beautiful blues and yellows, purples, all kind of mixed throughout, and it's just creating this glorious combination of pops of color and interest, and I think the texture from the garter stitch is working really well. So that will just be, that's another mindless kind of project that I take with me, particularly to work, get a couple of rows done. You're just increasing at the middle and at the sides and going back and forward. So I have made some pattern modifications, so if you have a look on my Ravelry, I've got what I decided to do instead, because my brain got a bit confused with their instructions. So it is slightly modified from the original Tiny Tassels, but the concept is still the same, and that will just be a triangle shawl, which I may or may not add an edging to, just to tidy up my kind of beginnings, which is not the best, but anyway. So that's another lovely, just simple grab and go, float around in my handbag kind of project, and one of the kind of accessories that I've been working on. Now, if you're following me on Instagram, you'll see that I have started one of my layering pieces, and this is the Monday sweater. So after the hecticness of all the cables, definitely wanted to focus on stockinette, and I also realized I had not really done a lot of those just really simple things that I'd planned. So I decided to get the Monday sweater on the needles. The Monday sweater is by Petite Knit. It's just a very vanilla top-down raglan folded collar with some short row shaping at the back. Simple, classic design. I am making this size medium on the recommended needles, so I'm now on the 4mm needles. There was a 3.5 for the collar, and then 4 mils for the body. I think that's looking really nice. I am using, again, just really beautiful yarn. Circus Tonic Handmade. This is their DK Twist in the color Piazza. Again, superwash merino, so just delightfully soft, and it's got these, it's like a gorgeous pink. Then you can see these speckles. So you get these little surprises of blues and greens popping in there. And because I'm alternating skeins, because the ones I'm using at the moment, you can see I hold those up. It's not as obvious, but this one is a lot lighter than this one. Obviously, both, like, they're pretty close. You might be able to see it a bit more there, but this one is a lot lighter. So I'm just doing some helical knitting and alternating skeins, and I just think it's blending it really beautifully. And particularly, it just also helps to spread out those speckles as well. So you're getting a little bit more variation, and they're not kind of clumping all together. But yeah, I really am enjoying this. I'm glad to have some more vanilla knitting on the needles, because I'm able to knit and read, which is a really lovely way to exist, I have discovered. So of course, holding it in my beautiful red raspberry co bag, I can't tell you how many compliments I have received on this. I went to my local knitting group, which I'll knitting / sewing, we all just sit around talking really, which are run by one of the CWA groups, and they loved it. They thought it was so beautifully made. Of course, I told them all about, look at the pocket and the lining, you've got to feel it. Look at all that top stitching, just delightful. So if you haven't heard of Red Raspberry Co, she's a rural Australian small business sewer based in Scone in New South Wales. Go and have a look at her website. The quality of her products are beautiful. Even the CWA ladies were impressed. So yes, have a look. Really enjoying this bag. And like, I kept my sweater project in there for the Billy and carted it around. I've now got the Monday sweater and an extra skein in there, and like, that's only half, but it's not bulky and it's keeping it all safely together. So have a look at these, they're beautiful. Okay, is that enough yet, Sally? Oh, I think we've reached the end of the whips. Who thought that that would happen? Okay, make sure you got a cup of tea. I have not been behaving myself. There has been a lot of yarn that has been arriving this April. Okay, are you ready? So, where shall we start first? Probably at the very beginning, which is Bendigo Woollen Mills. So I was very lucky at Christmas time, and I got a voucher, a gift voucher to Bendigo Woollen Mills, and I have been trying to be really intentional with all of my purchases and things. And then how did I get here? Somehow I was on their website, or maybe I'd just been watching other Australian YouTubers who were talking about the Wollemi, like an I, not Wollemi, Wollemi range of yarn, which is kind of a limited edition that Bendigo Woollen Mills are running. I'd been seeing it mentioned here and there, and decided to actually have a look at it because I'd just finished figuring out the whole cabling thing, and I know that those slightly more rustic, certainly Corriedale yarns that have a little bit more structure are excellent for highlighting texture. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I could use some of my vouchers kind of towards that. Anyway, I think Bendigo Woollen Mills has really missed out on capturing the New South Wales audience. So because I don't do anything in halves, I wanted to look into the story of who Bendigo had collaborated with, because the main focus and kind of the big selling point about this particular range was not only that it was lovely yarn, but it was a real farm to mill story of really traceable Australian wool, which is just absolutely one of my obsessions. It's something I'm really passionate about and I absolutely wanted to be able to support. So I read all about Roseville corridors, and I guess when you're in a different state, you don't know what people would recognise if they're in another state. So Roseville corridors are actually not that far away from me. They're listed as being about 10 kilometres out of Young. Now, if you're in New South Wales, lots of people know about the town named Young, even though it's only small. It's the cherry capital of Australia. They have a big cherry blossom festival. They are about an hour and a half from us here in Wagga, so they're in the Riverina. And I think if they had promoted Roseville corridors as being from the Riverina in New South Wales, or even just mentioned Young, so many more people would have thought, oh my goodness, I have a connection to that. I am going to like lean into it. I know that they've obviously sold very well, but I think they've really missed out on letting people know that this is from like an hour and a half away from me, it's near Wagga. Anyway. So obviously I had to buy some Wollemi. I had to, because that was the universe telling me you love the story and it's basically from your backyard. So let me show you what I bought. Now, by the time I got around to this, because as I said, I don't do anything by halves, did a deep dive, had to do all the research. I know way too much about Corriedales and how they've been optimizing their wool lines for many years. And anyway, the colours were a little bit limited by the time I actually got around to buying. But again, made some really intentional decisions and I got a charcoal. So I know that black doesn't work for me, but these grey muted kind of charcoal-y colours do. And I am going to make a cabled jumper of some kind with this, and I think it will be absolutely divine. So this is Bendigo Woollen Mills 8-ply Wollemi in the colourway charcoal, and you get 400 metres in 200 grams. So I got 3 of these. Just, oh, that's going to be so beautiful. And just, can you imagine in the cables? I just am so excited about this. Yes. I love that they're all wound in balls. It just makes my life so much easier. I really hate my yarn winder, but I don't think I hate it enough to buy an electric one. The setup, and anyway, we don't need to talk about that and my woes of my distress with my very simple and very well used yarn winder. So we've got the 3 charcoal. Then I also got, again, still the 8-ply Wollemi in the colourway Magnolia, and I think I have a Sari Nordland pattern in mind for this. So it's a little bit more kind of white, I guess, compared to my cream, but I think it'll still be beautiful, and her designs are very elegant and I think they will just look so nice, and it is so soft. It's really lovely. So yes, really excited. So I got 3 of those again. And then I used my previous stash of luxury cream. This is the 10-ply luxury Bendigo Woollen Mills in my Louie Pullover that, again, love. I did have plans for this to be in a cardigan, so I just kind of restocked these to be able to do that again if I want, because I've still got basically a half of a ball of this. So yes, that is the plans for those. So the colours aren't particularly exciting, but I think the projects will really be very exciting. So that is B for Bendigo. We are gonna have some fun with more side missions to come. Now, more Australian businesses will be shown shortly. The next one, let's do this one because it's a bit messy. Now, I've been very lucky with vouchers, so I got some for Christmas to Bendigo, very spoiled. I then also won a voucher for Louie and Lola, whose yarn I just cannot get enough of. I won a voucher at the end of last year, and I was really sad I didn't get to go to the Australian Yarn Show where I knew they'd be, and so I decided to pull the trigger on one of the DK mini sets in the BFL because I wanted to use it for colour work. Now, I had got on a D-stash 2 skeins of this beautiful BFL DK or 8 ply in blue spruce, and so it's 225 meters in 100 grams. So Louie and Lola, and I was set on making a Kintra with this. I was like, yes, I'm gonna get, I've already got the base colors, and I'll get this mini set to play around with and make a DK weight Kintra, because I had so much fun with the fingering weight. Have a look at my previous episodes. I'll go on and on about it. Sally, what were you thinking? You used 2 skeins of fingering weight for the body, like for the main body colour. That is not the same thing as 2 skeins of DK. What were you thinking? You weren't thinking. Anyway, so once I had that realisation, I was really cranky with myself, because I was like, if you actually stopped and thought about it, that was never going to work. Anyway, so then the what am I going to do with this has been entering my night thoughts. And then I've been trying to play around with colour contrasts and all sorts of things. Anyway, let me show you the gorgeous doodle kit though. So let's have a look. So these are the colours in it was the farm doodle. So this is designed for the Pacific Knit Co. Doodle cowls, doodle hats, whatever. So there's really fun little colour work accessories, and just her graphics are just so cute and so much fun. So this was the original pack for that, and then there's a few extras. And so I've been playing around in my brain, like, what am I going to do with these? And because they're DK weight, you know, you don't get huge yardage with DK, so you've got to be like smart about it all. Anyway, I thought these were always destined for colour work. Do I need to try and make something with colour work? But then I haven't got enough for like a sweater, and then I was trying to think of a vest, and anyway, I just was really occupied with thinking about this. Anyway, I have, and I'll put a picture in here, I'm going to make, again, it's a Pacific Knit Co. cowl, but I think it's called the Plaid cowl, and I think it's going to be really beautiful because I'll get the main body of the cowl will be this like gorgeous teal colour, and then I'll be able to make the plaid just think kind of tartany with these, and I'll be able to play around with that. So I think that will actually work really well. And I'm not going to think about it anymore because I just need to like move on. This side mission project has just taken up too much brain power, but that is what this should hopefully become. Now, 2 more things. Are you still with me? Do you need a cup of tea, top up, or just a biscuit? Have a pause if you need, but otherwise we're going to be done soon. So, if you've been following along for a while, you know that I've been deliberating over whether or not I make my field sweater out of the beautiful possum yarn that I've got from Louie and Lola, and it's in a kind of mustard colour. And I got a jumper that is a very similar colour, and every time I put it on, I just think, no, you're only wearing this because it's just like an easy house jumper. This colour does not suit you. And what I'm realising more and more as I continue on this kind of capsule making is the joy and the amount of use I am getting out of these pieces that I'm making so intentionally, because they're easy to wear, they fit me really well, and they look good. And I thought, there is no way I'm going to put all that effort in when I already know that the colour is not right. Yarn's divine. The sample that I saw it made in, exquisite. but it's just not the colour for me. So I decided I would find a new colour. Like, I would have a look around for a new colour, and Three Trees Fibre Crafts, who I used to stock in my store, had this, which is the same yarn base. So it is a woolen spun, so even though it's a fingering weight, it'll kind of fluff up and it'll be lovely and airy. You get 400 meters per 100 grams. Merino possum, so 80% merino, 20% possum. This is the color Berry Crush, and I think it is like, it's a color that's really in this season, but I also think it works so much better. I know I'm going to love this. And so I got 3 of these, and Rhonda very kindly wound them for me, and that just makes me so happy because I didn't even ask her. I'm so grateful, I can't tell you. So like, look at this color. I'm so excited. I am so glad I finally made that decision. So I'll sell the beautiful mustard colored Louie and Lola possum, because I've now got the divine Berry Crush. Like, I just can't tell you. I wanted a very specific colour. Screens are always hard to know, but Rhonda, you've absolutely nailed this colour. It is just perfect, and I can't wait to show you what my final statement piece in my capsule wardrobe will look like in this gorgeous yarn. So, the final thing I've got to show you is, again, a little bit quirky, but another Australian business, so let's give them a shout out. So as I mentioned, I went to my local knitting group recently, knitting, craft, whatever you want to call it. It's a bit of a just chin wag, really. And they invited a local, I want to call her a quilter. I don't actually know. I had to leave early, so I couldn't stick around and kind of find out more. Her name is Marglo. She creates beautiful little like patchwork and needlework kits, both felt and fabric. She had some gorgeous quilts there. I think she runs workshops as well. Again, I'm not a quilter. I don't really know the significance of her, but she seemed to be a pretty big deal. Came up from Albury and, excuse me, had a little bit of a stall at the group during the Easter holidays. And shout out to Jess, who may or may not be watching. My lovely friend Jess, who we stayed with, showed me some beautiful felt crowns she was making for gifts for kids, and of course I had to do that too, and had a lot of fun making one recently as a gift for a little boy. And so when I saw that she being Marglo had these little felt needle keeper kits, which has everything that you need, including the little closure clasp, I thought, yep, I can do that. That looks really fun, and I'm forever losing my needles, so actually that'll be a very practical little something. And how cute. So I don't know if you want another little side mission, because I don't know anyone who is a knitter who doesn't do another like little side hobby here and there. Have a look at her lovely business. All right, my goodness, I told you I've been busy in all aspects. Really do hope you're all doing okay. April's been a lot. Thanks for tuning in, following along, listening to my rambles and excitement about yarn. I would love if you subscribe or even share what you've been watching. Tag me on Instagram. I love to know what your thoughts are. Kind ones, please. But until next time, have the most wonderful time knitting or crafting, and I will see you really soon.